I am Dr. Shannon Holmes. I am an assistant professor here in the theater department in the Faculty of Media, Art and Performance at the University of Regina. And I am very happy to be able to share just a little bit of my research with you, just the taster menu or elevator pitch version, if you will. So my research revolves around voice, the human voice, and more specifically around voice training for performers. Now, what we think of, or what many people think of when we think of training or voice training specifically, is technique, the importance of technique. Maybe we need to learn how to project, to breathe, to use our breath in an effective way, to have good diction, to have pitch and range and resonance, and absolutely all of those things are very important things to study. One other portion of voice training that is also very important, that is not necessarily a new thing, is really connecting ourselves, our authentic selves, to our voices in order to speak in a way that is truthful, in a way that is connected emotionally. Because really, as audiences, we can hear if someone is not speaking in a truthful, authentic way. And usually that manifests in some kind of vocal issue. Maybe their sound is muffled, it's mumbled, it's maybe stuck somewhere, and we, as voice trainers, we've tried to find a way to allow the voice to really reflect, to express fully the totality of our experience. And so the research that I've been doing is how to approach voice work from an autoethnographic perspective by placing the performer, the actor, whoever it is that's using their voice, in the position of both subject and object, and allowing that person or encouraging that person to really examine their body, mind, voice, all as one holistic instrument. So what happens quite often when we are studying voice is we can get all this technique down. We can get the technique, whether we're studying singing or speech, honestly, we can get the technique correct, but there's something missing. There's some connection missing there. And that connection usually is a connection to our emotional life, our inner life. And this doesn't mean that if you're playing a character that you have to reveal something specific about your own personal life on stage. But it does mean that we have to access what I call our somatic archives. Within our bodies, we carry memory. We carry the memory of what it felt like in different situations. We carry the memory of sounds we made in different situations. We talk quite a bit, or I'm speaking very generally, we hear talk quite a bit of body language, right? People can read people's body language. We're pretty good at it, right? If someone's this, this, we know, we can pick up pretty quickly what's going on for that person. And I suggest that we have similar sonic language, not the words, not in language, not in the words, but in the sounds we make. So for instance, if someone is speaking really kind of back here, we might not know specifically what's going on with them emotionally, but it gives us a clue to what they're doing. Similar if someone's talking really out here and pushing their voice out, again, gives us a clue to something that emotional that's going on. And so my research has been to approach this in this autoethnographic way, in trying to merge the very technical aspects of voice with the psychosomatic, with the very embodied memory that comes through our voice, the embodied emotion, the embodied expression. So one way is, and I'll share an exercise with you, is I have students quite often infuse a personal story within a poem, for example, that they're exploring, or within a speech text from a play that they're doing, or sometimes even within a song. And by infusing their personal story within it, it allows them to evoke memory, evoke bodily memory, and open up their somatic archives, these places where we have stored these memories. And this is important because we think we remember what it felt like in a certain situation, but it's not until we actually experience that coming through our body through a sound that memory is really, truly, and fully triggered. So I'll give you an example. It's a story I quite often tell my students about a revelation that I made about my voice and ways that I use my voice, or maybe don't use my voice sometimes in performance. So the story revolves around a time, quite a long time ago, when one of my children was quite small. He was maybe 6 or 7 years old, and he went missing. We were on a camping trip in this big provincial campground in British Columbia, and he went missing. And it was very, very scary. He had gone off on a little bike ride around the road that circled where our campsite was, but he had decided to go off on a path, and he got lost in the back country of BC. And it was very, very frightening. And what happened was he was missing. It was going on about 3 hours. It was now getting dark, and the RCMP were finally called. The campground was completely shut down. The RCMP were called, and they separated my husband and I to question us. They took us to different parts of the campground even, which was in and of itself very scary. And while we were having this interview, when they were asking really crazy questions as far as we're concerned about, do you have any known enemies? Would anyone want to harm your family? So obviously we were worried now that there was a kidnapping that had happened. During these separate conversations, my husband got a phone call on his cell phone from a man who just said, "I have your kid. I'm at the Petrocan at such and such down the highway," which was about 10 kilometers away, which set everyone into a bit of, they told me, "Go back to your campsite." They told my husband, "Go back to your campsite." And as I'm heading back to the campsite, my husband came screaming around the corner in his truck, and he had decided that he was himself going to go down to the Petrocan. And I wanted to say in that moment, "Where is he?" Which was a stupid question, because apparently he was at the Petrocan down the highway. And this is where the important part of voice and how authentic voice truly comes through our bodies. Now, what I wanted to say, as I said, was, "Where is he?" But what came out of my mouth in that moment was a sound that I hadn't recalled making ever in my life. And it was kind of this moment where I was floating on top of myself, looking down, and I made kind of a sound like a real animalistic sound. And I know afterwards, this was, even years after thinking about that moment, I know if I heard someone else make that sound, I would understand the depth of their emotional life in that moment. I would understand that something really terrible had happened or was happening. But I wondered if I was given that as a script before making these discoveries, if I was given that as a script. So you are playing a mother and you want to say, "Where is he?" I might have approached it more from a very, "Where is he? where is he? Where is my son? Where is he, right? Because it is less ugly. It is less pleasing aesthetically in many ways. But what struck me was just that moment of, I knew in an instant that this was coming from somewhere so deep within me that I really had no control over that sound in the moment. And that's the totality of that really turning point in my process of looking at voice and trying to discover new methods of connecting to our authentic voice. And just to wrap up the story, my son was fine. Some backcountry mountain bikers had found him, walked him out of the bush, and he was completely fine. Sometimes I forget to finish the story for people because the whole story, really, the point really in telling you and with my students is to really examine what we're really doing with our voices in our everyday life. In our everyday life, we use many, many voices. I really encourage you to start noticing your vocal masks, as I like to call them sometimes. I have a vocal mask I put on, I notice when I call the bank, for instance. It's like, hello, hi, it's Shannon Holmes here. Thank you very much. I'm just wanting to, or I have a vocal mask when I'm trying to get my kids out the door, right? Let's go. Right? I have a vocal mask when I see my friends. Oh my God, I'm so happy to see. I have a vocal mask for who's a nice doggy, for my dog, right? So all of these live within us. So how can we merge these sounds, these vocal palette, the different colors and resonance that we use every day? How can we merge this with the technique that's required to be heard at the back of the theater, to transform into another character through an idiolect? Maybe the character you're playing has a dialect or an accent of some sort that you need to use in conjunction with all these truthful sounds that are coming from within us. So just like we have to work on our body language as actors, gestures, we have these sonic gestures that are really important that we are in touch with. And one way of accessing these is really going through our somatic archives and connecting those with lived experiences. Now, this is very much akin to work that Stanislavski and the, method, acting method where, people transform themselves, or in their everyday life, they even go as far as transforming. There's similar crossovers here, but what I'm suggesting is that we can do these without having to change who we really are. It's just accessing these sonic gestures. And truly, this work can be really valuable for anyone who needs to use their voice in an extended way. And in an extended way means on stage doing Shakespeare. It might be on stage singing an aria. It could be standing up in front of a class, giving a presentation. It could be as a lawyer, having to present a case in front of a courtroom. Anyone who needs to use their voice in an effective way can really benefit from really digging into their somatic archives and using the full palette that they have available to them. Colors, textures, resonance, range, all of it. Hope this was helpful for you to really get a peek in what I do as a researcher. I invite you all to anytime to contact me if you want to discuss this work further. I'm at shannon.holmes@reginau.ca. Welcome to the University of Regina. Have a great semester.